Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Wonder Woman Says.
Episode 24.
Yeah, I know we kinda missed Juneteenth by a day. I kinda had something going on, but you know how that goes. Better late than never, though. Happy Juneteenth nonetheless.
Yeah, her thing that was going on, she thought today was Juneteenth.
Yeah, okay.
Spends all that time learning Italian, never learned to read a calendar.
Okay. Well, anyway, since it was Juneteenth yesterday, we figured we kind of do something for it tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got 3 comic books centered around 3 black superheroes. I must say it's a pretty interesting bunch, pretty diverse bunch too. One of which we all know and love, you know.
Mm-hmm.
The other 2, well, one's an emerging star, the other one, she's gonna be on the next Captain Marvel movie, so hey, you'll enjoy it as much as I enjoyed it. Matter of fact, we're gonna get into one of those comic books now. I know DC got this mini-series from Naomi going on now. I will admit, I don't really know much about the character because I have yet to read one of her comic books before this, but this is the first one I ever read. Well, the first one where she's a star, I should say.
So we're 2/3 of the way through season 2, so that's a good starting place.
Yeah. I will say this. I was trying to get season 1 Naomi. I think that's what it was. One of those early Naomi books. Book is not even 5 years old. They're trying to get like $200 and $300 on eBay now. I was like, wow, y'all just couldn't wait, could you?
All right.
Yeah.
So read it, damn you.
Well, we get this little crawl right here, I guess you can call it technically. They kind of talk about what's been going on, how Naomi's pretty much aware that her mentor is back in town now.
It is much harder to read the text with this tablet than it is when we film with your phone.
Yeah. I guess it's just something we kind of have to work with tonight.
Well, just don't point out too many quotes.
Okay. Well, we at the house of Naomi and her family in Oregon. I don't really know these characters right here. Like I said, I'm not really familiar with this whole story yet, but seems like one of the guys apparently from another planet, and the girl is kind of, I guess you say she's kind of like the Lois Lane of this situation. Like he's talking about like how it's like he wants to go back to his planet, but yet at the same time he also enjoys being with her, being around Naomi. This kind of causes a brief conflict because she kind of takes it as he's saying that he's sick of her and sick of her family. They resolve it, but then a sudden emergency seems to take place. We see Naomi rush to the aid of her friend D. D's just like knocked out cold in the middle of the street. Seemed like D just took I don't know. I don't even think beaten would be a good enough word for this.
Looking cold on the D right now.
Yeah, I remember that song. Yeah, don't even get me started on that one. So like Naomi's friend Anna calls up trying to figure out what's been going on. Like, why is D out cold like this? And she's trying to figure it out. So she tries to make an emergency call to the Justice League Hall.
So, just to recap, what are Naomi's powers exactly?
I know she can fly. I'm just going off of what I've seen in this book. I know she can fly. I know she got some speed to her. like I say, I'm like still kind of getting familiar with it because the only time I seen it before this is in a couple of them Justice Leagues that I bought. Of course, she didn't get a whole lot of pages in them books.
Alrighty.
Or like she makes a call to the Hall of Justice, I guess you could call it. They start to tell her that there's been like a breach in the whole multiverse portal, I guess you could call that. Although they find that like there hasn't like been no activity since the initial breach, but they're gonna keep an eye on the whole thing. But meanwhile, she has to get Dee some help. So of course, she gets Dee some help, and the town's just looking like they're sick of this whole thing, because I guess going off of what we've been seeing here is like they're sick of all this stuff happening, because they're kind of thinking Naomi's the cause of all this.
All right, hold still, baby.
Okay.
You're just kind of waving it all over the place, making the camera go all bee.
Oh, okay, my bad.
The bee.
At the Hall of Justice, Naomi ends up talking to Dee, trying to figure out what happened. Dee starts telling her like there's some invaders on the way from another planet, so to speak. They were trying to kind of use him to get there. Naomi's kind of mad because she feels as if Dee went over to like the other planet to try to do something for it. Almost got himself killed for it. But then of course he clarifies, of course he kind of did do something like that. He starts kind of telling her what happened while he was in that planet fighting with them people that made him end up where he was.
Take your time, I'm hourly.
We start like seeing more of what was going on during the battle that I guess happened off the initial pages. You start getting a glimpse of the villains that are pretty much on their way to Naomi's world to come settle a score with her. Now, I'm not going to tell you what happens because, we don't spoil all of the new comics. I will admit, I guess it's pretty good. It kind of took me a while to really get who some of the characters were. This is kind of different for me. Like, I don't really know much about Naomi yet.
Well, it's clearly got you excited. You're kind of fidgeting around all over the place.
Well, kind of doesn't help, too. It's kind of hot in here right now.
Yeah. We got 2 more to go.
Yeah, I know. But like I said, I think this is a good book. Of course, people that know more about Naomi probably loving this. I can see why. It's got great artwork, something I've been really praising DC for as of late. And I think they're really giving all these different characters a chance to shine on their own, unlike before.
Alright, so out of 10.
Have to give it an 8. Makes me want to see what the other 3 issues were before this, what they were like, I should say. It's like I said, it took me some getting used to it. I'm used to reading Wonder Woman and Batman and Superman and all that. And to come and read something like this, it was a change of pace. I guess you know what they say though, you gotta try different things eventually in life.
Yeah, I'm the one who's always saying that.
Yeah. Well, we got 2 more books though, so this ain't the end by any means.
Alright, what's next?
Well,
And try not to block your mouth.
okay. Well, I know this next book, we going back to the past. We're going back to the late 80s, to be honest. Or to be exact, what am I saying there? I know there was a series of people called Captain Marvel over on the Marvel side of things. I know first it was Marvel. It's kind of disputed if we should call Carol Danvers the second Captain Marvel or not when she was referred to Miss Marvel for so many years.
Well, there's also that one guy who could shoot his limbs all in different directions.
Yeah. I know many people consider Monica Rambeau the second Captain Marvel.
Rambo, sweetie.
Rambo, my bad.
You gotta learn to speak Cajun, child.
Yeah.
You're blocking your mouth again.
Oh. Well, I will admit this cover right here is really good. I really love this cover.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was like the first solo story ever for this Captain Marvel right here. This great cover art. Here we see Monica doing battle with this serpent.
She in the dream realm?
Yeah, something like that. Monica then is shooting her beams at the serpent, but it don't seem like it's doing much to the creature. But then she starts getting out of control with her power. She can't stop shooting the beams. The next thing you know, she starts getting full of radiation. Well, by the time she finally does get back under control, she starts to realize like her skin is pretty much been radiated.
Mm-hmm.
And she can't really do nothing about it, but then we're gonna see this little twist. Turns out that was a nightmare Monica was having.
They kind of gave it away by naming the story A Dream.
Yeah. Of course, we see Monica's parents come in the room, try to comfort her. Then downstairs at the breakfast table, they start voicing their concerns for Monica. And Monica comes out in her work uniform. Of course, she hugs and kisses her family goodbye before she heads off to work for the day. And she's working in the ship.
Apparently something's going on over at the Acclaim factory.
Yeah. Vintage days of video gaming right there.
And it actually kind of looked like it was part of the story, the way they paneled it.
Yeah, they probably did that on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised. So, Monica and her crew are pretty much aboard this ship in the port of New Orleans, the Gulf Coast, so to speak.
Is she a pilot in the Navy or the Air Force?
Oh, I think she was the Air Force, I want to believe. But they're like guarding this shipment.
Okay.
Yeah. Of course, she kind of cools down, start lifting some weights.
But I'm saying, of course.
Oh, there you go with that again.
There you go with that again.
Okay. But then, a couple of hijackers start to take over the ship. Of course, they immediately come up to Monica to try to take her hostage. But of course, Monica ain't going for that on this day.
You're doing it on purpose now.
Yeah, I'm just kind of, you know how I be talking sometimes.
Natalik.
Yeah. When Monica subdues the hijackers, she tries to find out what's going on. She finds the rest of the crew being taken hostage.
Wait a minute, I think that's the second time that ad's appeared in this comic. For Bionic Commando?
It's possible. This is a long book right here.
That's weird.
Yeah, they got a lot of space to fill out in between the story. So, of course, Monica starts thinking of what to do, even though she doesn't have her powers. At least she doesn't think she does. Of course, she gets her old costume in a desperate attempt to try to stop the hijackers with the hopes that maybe she could use her reputation to make them give up.
Like Golgo 13.
Of course, she confronts the hijackers dressed in a Captain Marvel uniform, even though she thinks she doesn't have her powers. She gets lucky. They end up surrendering just based on her reputation alone without a fight. However, something much worse is waiting for her elsewhere. Of course, we see Powder Keg is involved in this whole thing. And she ends up having to face him. course, he's fully powered, but she doesn't have no powers, at least for the moment she doesn't know. We're gonna see what happens about that.
Did Rob Liefeld create that character?
Oh, this is long before him. This is like in the late 80s.
You know he existed in the 80s, right?
Yeah, but I don't think he was doing Marvel stuff yet. I don't never see his name on any of these old books like this. Of course, Monica does battle. Monica does battle with Powder Keg. Of course, Powder Keg ain't going down without a fight. He's looking for that shipment that his boss told him to come and get. Monica ends up somehow fighting back against him. She starts to find out she actually does have some of her powers left over. Of course, the ship ends up exploding. Monica has to leave the ship, or either she leaves the ship or she's gonna die. Powder Keg will die too. She decides to try to rescue Powder Keg, even though Powder Keg doesn't want to go without what he's looking for. But they end up actually escaping the ship. I must admit, this story is good so far. Kind of reminds me of Under Siege. Well, that was sudden.
Apparently the bag didn't like Under Siege.
Yeah. Who knows what the bag likes?
The Shadow knows.
Yeah. And then of course Monica starts to I guess try to protect the shipment from going down with the ship, even though it doesn't work. I kind of said things a little out of order, forgive me.
You're going all blurry now.
Well, Monica, of course, now this is where they start to get off the ship. Because she ain't gonna let Powder Keg die, even though Powder Keg was trying to kill her. This is where they actually do get out of the ship. Monica starts to swim to safety. Of course, this situation isn't over by a long shot.
Of course.
Yeah. Monica pays a visit to Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four. Reed tells her that she still has some limited amount of powers, even though it's just not up to where it was.
I bet he was a real condescending prick about it.
Monica heads back to her headquarters, so to speak, try to figure out why is everything happening the way it is. Guy starts to tell her this crime lord in Brazil tried to buy off the stuff that was on that ship that them hijackers were after. Like, he didn't intend to hand it over, but she used a lot of violence and intimidation. The crime lord just wouldn't stop until he finally kind of gave up.
I like that name, the Crime Lord.
Yeah, actually her name is Ramos, and she's a Brazilian lady.
Crime Lord's better.
Yeah. So of course, Monica ends up actually meeting this lady that's at the head of this whole thing. Turns out she has some armor and try to fight Monica. For the moment, Ramos actually kind of overpowers Monica. Monica tries to fight Ramos back, but Ramos is just kind of too powerful for her right now.
Is it Ramos or Ramos? Because you use both in one sentence.
Yeah, you know. I guess you can be, I guess looking at it on paper, I guess it could be either or, but I'm just going off it like that. But of course,
Mm. Gonna make another bag fall down.
I hope not. Of course,
You're on my side, right?
once the battle just keeps heating up. Monica continues to fight back.
Isn't like the other camera, babe. You gotta hold it still.
Yeah, I know it's kind of something to get used to. Although I will say, of course, we're gonna have the other camera next time. Don't worry about this. Hopefully, you have something to kind of get it a little cooler in here too.
Alright, so the white lady is going off, and she's like, whoa, and here we are.
Yeah. Of course, Ramos dons her extra armor. This is when things start kind of getting serious.
Oh yeah, they were counting on an action figure for her, weren't they?
Yeah. Turns out the lady almost makes a car. Actually, no, almost makes the airplane wing fall down on this guy right here.
Did you just think the airplane was a car?
Yeah, I'm a stick. Yeah, because like I said, I just kind of...
And you just said you were a stick. Do you see what I'm working with?
What is my mind tonight?
Yeah.
But yeah, Monica is rescuing this guy. Yeah, I don't know, like I can see like I'm in La La Land tonight. Yeah, I need to do something about that.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah, I ain't got you started now. Cause she saves the guy and goes back and does battle with this crime lord from Brazil.
She looks like Cobra Commander a little bit.
Yeah, she kinda does. Some help arrives in the form of Rhodey from Stark. I guess Stark International, I guess is what it was being called at this time period.
And he brought ice cream. That's nice of him.
Yeah, well, actually, it's the device that's gonna defeat this lady from Brazil. So then they go back and try to finish this battle. Of course, she's causing a whole lot of destruction. She's enjoying this newfound power of hers.
Okay, you see, that is a car.
Yeah, I see it now, yeah.
That's not an airplane.
Yeah, that was my fault. Then, as the battle started to near its end, Monica finally sees an opening. She put that device on this lady from Brazil. It renders her armor useless. And that's pretty much the end of this battle.
Must be Norton antivirus.
Who knows? Maybe it might have been the precursor to it. So then she starts talking with Rhodey and his friend about hitching a ride back on the plane because she wants to fly back instead. I know you can't see it because this camera's not as good. There was a quote from Zora Neale Hurston at the end. I thought that was a really nice touch.
Oh, read it.
Okay. And ships at a distance have every man's wish on board. For some, they come in with the tide. For others, they sail forever on the horizon, never out of sight, never landing until the watcher turns his eyes away in resignation. His dreams mocked to dearth by time. That is the life of men. Now, women forget all those things they don't want to remember, and remember everything they don't want to forget. The dream is the truth. Then they act and do things accordingly. I think that was a nice ending statement.
Pretty long for a quote in a comic book, though.
Yeah, I was surprised when I saw it.
That is so. Thoughts? I assume you have some.
Yeah. I know we usually don't review books of this length on this show too often.
Hence the tablet instead of the cell phone.
Yeah. I thought it was a really good story. I didn't really know what to expect from her. solo story from this particular Captain Marvel. Kind of costing me a few dollars too. I actually paid $12 for a copy of this. I'm glad I bought it now. Seems like it's a little bit of a collector's item too. So I'm gonna be keeping it, that's for sure.
Alrighty, out of 5.
I have to give it a 4.5. I really like this story. I really like that vintage late 80s cover art and vintage artwork in general. And like I really liked how the story kind of had that whole, granted this book predated it by a few years, had that whole under siege feel, but it just had like a superhero at the center of it for the first half. I like the villains too. Kind of vary of the times too. Because I know back then we was hearing a whole lot of Brazilian crime lords and stuff of that nature.
This is before we realized how sexy Brazilians are.
Yeah, definitely 4.5 for this. But there's one more after this one.
Hopefully not quite as long.
Yeah, this one's shorter. Well, I know in 1988, another black superhero from Marvel got a mini-series of superhero that was, I would like to say, very underappreciated for decades, literally. They had their only comic book series canceled somewhere in the late 70s. Of course, I'm talking about Black Panther. Another great cover, classic cover too.
Alright, let's pause and take a look at that real quick. That is a thing of beauty right there.
Yeah, I love that logo too. Yeah, I actually like that logo better than the logo they use now.
It's like Black Panther, but it could also be Dracula.
Yeah, got that horror-esque feel to it. Yeah, like it's like you were saying, this cover is freaking beautiful.
It looks like the cover you'd see on one of those paperbacks from hell.
Yeah.
I've got a few of those.
Also, just seems like it has that whole black power vibe to it too. Yeah.
It's like T'Challa, but Blackula.
Yeah. So we start off, we see Black Panther fighting the rhinoceros in the jungles of Wakanda. Of course, as the battle rages on, T'Challa eventually gets the better of the rhinoceros and claims another victory, but then something unexpected happens.
Turns out it's Ventura.
Yeah. Actually, I forgot to say something about this. There's a man in this country, Tanzania, Africa. I will say this is very of its time too. It's kind of a symbol of apartheid. This was in full swing when this book came out in '88.
Yeah.
He's being interrogated by these white police officers, being accused of harboring terrorists near his village, even though he doesn't know what they're talking about, but they refuse to believe him. They're just brutalizing him. Then a couple of the actual Black Panthers move to attack T'Challa, which surprises him and his people, and the Wakandans, I should say. Of course, this sparks an immediate controversy. Start to try to figure out why the Panthers attacking them. We start to wonder if the spirit has betrayed T'Challa or not.
And why is that one guy named Lane Mastodon?
Good question. They had all these outlandish ads from back then. I kind of miss that nowadays. You kind of never know what you find in these books.
Real talk, at one point I was seriously giving thought to changing my middle name to Brontosaurus.
Oh, that's the first time hearing about this.
Well, this is before we were dating.
Yeah. Of course. Of course, we see these police officers try to figure out what's going on with this guy. They're thinking about actually putting him through some kind of shock treatment with the hopes they finally start to talk. T'Challa finds himself in an unexpected battle with a couple of actual Black Panthers. But then meanwhile, the cops are starting to get ready for what they're going to do to this guy they have in their interrogation room. Of course, lo and behold, T'Challa, he gets the better of the Panthers, but everybody starts to wonder why the Panthers quick to attack T'Challa. They start thinking something's really wrong here. But they all head off to a meeting with some officials from other countries. But meanwhile, we go back and see that the cops have been attacked brutally. As T'Challa makes his way back around his people, they start whispering and talking about how they start to wonder if T'Challa's still the chosen one to lead the Wakandans based off of what happened with the Black Panthers. They start heading towards the dinner with the government for the international government officials. Was T'Challa's getting ready. But of course he starts telling his right-hand man how tired he really is from all that fighting he did during the day.
You walk around in the jungle wearing black. That can't be good for your hydration.
Yeah. So then they're all at the dinner table. T'Challa starts talking about like what's going on. Then a news report is brought to his attention about Tanzania. Then T'Challa starts thinking about what he should do. Of course, Black people over there being persecuted by the white people. T'Challa decides to end the dinner, start to go talk with his people. T'Challa finds himself in a very terrible situation. Because like he supports the revolt that's coming in Tanzania. He's going to support the slaughter of millions of his people. Of course, because, you know, they're Black, even though they're not Wakandan. But since they're still Black, he really feels for them. But then if he doesn't do anything, then he's going to sit and watch him kind of get killed anyway. And then he's going to be accused of being a traitor, letting his people get slaughtered. So he's kind of backed into a corner on what to do here. But then we actually go to Tanzania. A reverend is kind of trying to justify why the Black people are being persecuted there. While this official is trying to convince him that what they're doing to these people are wrong, even though he's not hearing it. But then an actual Panther comes through and kills them both. That sparks off a massive revolution. But then the military is called in once the governor's house has been under siege. These pages kind of stick together. Since the people tried to actually fight back, the military decided to try to teach the town people a lesson. They start indiscriminately bombing their homes and indiscriminately killing people, even people that had nothing to do with the initial revolution. They just doing it just cause. Right here you can see a mother pretty much lost her baby due to the airstrikes. Yeah. Meanwhile, the people are sitting around figuring out what they're going to do about this. And they start talking about T'Challa, trying to call on him. But then people start voicing their doubts about T'Challa being a real leader. And they start talking about how they could just vote him out if they really feel like that. Here we see this suburban home, like far away from the villages and all that, this white family. They seem like they're far away from the chaos. And the wife seems to kind of somewhat feel sorry for what the black people are going through, but she feel like she can't really do nothing about it. Her daughter goes to go get the door thinking it's one of her friends, but it's actually the Black Panther, the literal Black Panther. They don't show it, but the Panther probably just goes ahead and slaughters them all. Here we see the Black Panthers getting ready for a ritual to kind of prove he is the real leader of Wakanda. I know the object here, he has to get through a couple of white apes and grab a leaf off the tree at the top and bring it back down. Of course, Wakanda, well, of course, what am I saying Wakanda? T'Challa goes through the track, tries to...
You're all over the place tonight.
Yeah. T'Challa goes through the track, tries to avoid getting killed by the apes.
Mm-hmm.
He ends up actually getting the leaf that he's supposed to get. He ends up actually completing the ritual, but however, there's a big problem. It turns out a device was planted that's supposedly able to neutralize apes. So this calls into question the actual results of the whole ritual. They start wondering if T'Challa had a part in this. And they kind of end it with T'Challa pretty much being forced to relinquish his leadership until the council to figure out what to do about this whole thing. Meanwhile, in Tanzania, government officials getting ready to try to come at T'Challa, try to stop him from doing something about what's going on in their country. We got this mysterious band of supremacists, so to speak, they're gonna be on the job trying to get T'Challa. That's how they end this issue of this 4-part miniseries. I will say that's a pretty heavy story. I know this book was published at the height of apartheid back in the day, so there's a whole lot of allusions to it.
Yep.
Yeah, a whole lot of violent imagery too, but I think it's one of the best Black Panther stories I've read to date. I really loved it. I loved the artwork. I loved the whole T'Challa being in danger of losing his kingship thing, and I love the whole how he's kind of backed into this corner trying to figure out, is he going to help his people, or is he going to kind of just sit back and do nothing, but then run the risk of being branded a traitor?
All right, so out of 5.
Yeah, I'm going to have to give that one a 5. That was superb.
Okay, and the bag, out of 5.
I don't know. I've never rated a bag before. That's a new one.
Well, what's in the bag?
Ain't much, just a sandwich bag. That's all that's in it.
Well, I mean, sandwiches are good.
Oh yeah, they are. I do be eating a lot of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
I mean, that's worth at least a 2.
Well, in my personal opinion, probably worth a 5 because I love them so much.
I love peanut butter too.
Yeah. Great.
Okay, so that's 5 for the bag, 5 for Black Panther, 4.5
for Captain Marvel, and then the 8 for Naomi. I will admit, I'm kind of sorry I was all over the place tonight, but it's just kind of one of those things.
You've been sniffing that airline glue again.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Okay, so what do we have on tap next week?
Next week, I just know we're gonna have some more comic books to review. It won't be as long as this week.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Still gonna be Pride related though, right?
See what happens. I see what's on the schedule to be released. That's all I can say. But we'll definitely think of something. Thank you for watching. Happy
Yeah.
Juneteenth. Hope it was a good one for everybody. We enjoyed filming this, and definitely remember to hit like and subscribe. And definitely keep supporting us. We appreciate the support. Oh, and I have to say something. We finally hit 1,000 views.
Woohoo!
Definitely thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's gonna be plenty more coming. Can't wait for us to actually film this stuff and actually get it to you. We appreciate your viewership.
Alright, and make sure you ring the bell, otherwise you won't get notified.
Yeah. Well, we about to sign off for the night. We'll see you next episode.
Bye.